Hollywood today is too derivative. Everything is a sequel or a reboot. Where's the originality? Sound familiar? If you've paid any attention to movies, TV, or pop culture in general over the last decade, you probably haven't only heard comments like this, you may have made them yourself if you have decent taste, at least in your head. God knows I have, and not without good reason.
Disney invites you and I must politely decline.
Hollywood seems to have become allergic to new ideas. But is being derivative really the main problem? A simple search on the denotation, the dictionary definition of derivative, we find that the word means simply copied or adapted from others, or having parts that originate from another source, made up of or marked by derived elements. That's all it really means, but the modern connotations of the word, the feelings and emotional qualities that we associate with it, tend to be much less neutral, far more negative. We use derivative to mean unoriginal. But this meaning isn't present in the etymology or the original usage of the word. And here's the thing. Nearly all of the movies and TV shows that we know have been in some way or other derivative. Many of the greatest films, from Casablanca to The Godfather to the Lord of the Rings movies, are all adapted from previous source material. And we can't outright slam sequels without tossing films of similar excellence into the fire. The Godfather 2, The Empire Strikes Back, Terminator 2, and Aliens, to name just a few. Even remakes aren't automatically awful. The American adaptations of The Magnificent Seven, The Ring, and Let the Right One In may not quite rise to the level of the foreign language originals, but they still became popular and enduring hits. And even some of the great classic films, such as Some Like It Hot, Ben-Hur, and The Thing, were themselves adapted from lesser-known earlier Hollywood efforts. My point here is that being derivative isn't in and of itself necessarily a bad thing. There are good and bad ways to adapt a story. This brings me to Kill Shakespeare, a graphic novel series by Conor McCreary, Anthony Del Cole, and a whole team of artists, first published by IDW Comics in 2010. I discovered this novel when I attended a panel at a Comic-Con in Chicago in 2013. The creators of the novel were hosting the panel, and it was on how to create and publish your first graphic novel. I took a ton of notes, because there were a ton of steps, and I've never actually gone through all the steps myself, but if I ever find that notebook, I will share them with you. Later on at that same convention, I found their table and talked to one of the authors here. He signed my book, right there. We talked writing for about half an hour, and I got a lot of good takeaways to add to my own comic scripting, which I was doing more of at the time. Kill Shakespeare is the kind of book to appeal to any writer, English nerd, or Shakespeare fan, and I'm all of the above. And it is, of course, a derivative work, derived, as you might have guessed, from the works of William Shakespeare. Just read the back cover and you might understand why this story got me. What Fables does for fairy tales, Kill Shakespeare does with the greatest writer of all time. This dark take on the bard pits his greatest heroes, Hamlet, Juliet, Othello, Falstaff, against his most menacing villains, Richard III, Lady Macbeth, Iago, in an epic adventure to find and kill a reclusive wizard named William Shakespeare. So Shakespeare himself becomes a character in this. He's kind of the Prospero of the story. If you've read The Tempest, you might understand the references there. This is definitely enough to hook somebody like me. Maybe not everyone, but anyone who's read Shakespeare in high school and has any kind of memory of it at all and is interested in good stories might find their curiosity at least itched by that description. But an intriguing premise does not a successful story make. It's all about the execution. So let's look at the opening. We begin with a brief flash forward. Looks like our hero, whoever he is in some kind of trouble. Hero in peril, page 1. I'm curious, but not hooked yet. Need more. We flash back to now. Interesting. The fact that we're starting with the future and flashing back to now implies that at some point we are going to flash even further back to then. And it looks like now means Act 4 of Hamlet. Anyone who's familiar with the plot, you know where we are. Okay, page 4, we're still in Act 4, but something seems different. Is that exactly what went down with Polonius and his family? Now things really start to veer off the text I'm familiar with. Where did this dog come from? What is this mist? I'm getting hooked now. I don't know who's calling him or why, and that very question keeps me reading. I should note at this point that a big part of the hook is my previous connection to the character. Since I know Hamlet pretty well, trying to figure out what he'd do if his situation turned weirdly different from the original play narrative is interesting food for thought, to say the least. In fact, part of the reason I know this play so well is I played Guildenstern in probably the most famous derivative work from it, Tom Stoppard's Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead. So I had to study both Hamlet and that play to really understand my role, and I was nominated for an American College Theater Festival Irene Ryan Award for my performance in that. Did not win, but still. Okay, now I feel like we've switched plays. The witches from Macbeth are sneaking their way into Hamlet. Let's skip ahead a little ways. A little while later, it seems like the young prince is going through a hallucinatory depressive crisis. Hamlet isn't that young as princes go, by the way. He's 30, but that's still young to me. The witch is back! Hugh Elton John. And I'm hooked. I don't know what this is leading up to, but now I have to know. As for how the rest of the novel plays out, I don't want to spoil too much for you. You've heard the summary from the back page. Suffice it to say, in my opinion, this is derivation done right. It takes well-established characters and stories, stays true to some aspects of them and changes others, and tells a completely different story that is still compelling. It presents me a what-if that I want to pursue. The payoffs to the setups are satisfying, and the tale as a whole leaves me with a number of deep thematic questions to think about. Now, no one, certainly not me, is saying that this graphic novel improves upon or is in some way better than Shakespeare. It's not, but it doesn't need to be. In fact, you can usually tell if something is derivative in a bad way if it keeps trying to improve upon or one-up its source material. If it clearly is aiming to become the better version instead of simply a different version. Compare derivations like Kill Shakespeare or Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead to those multi-million-dollar Hollywood failures that retell old tales in a boring or insulting way, trying to improve on the originals and just making them worse. The sequels and prequels that undermine and dilute the properties they're derived from. The desperate and poorly managed adaptations of beloved stories. And that ought to be enough to show you the difference between good derivative and bad derivative. The lesson here, again, is don't be afraid of derivation and don't be obsessed with originality. The originality is in the execution. If another already existent story inspires you to retell it or add to it in an engaging and artistic way, go for it. Fan fiction produces great fiction, sometimes. Tell the story that story inspires in you your way as best as you can. Heck, tell your derivative story in the comments below if you dare. Click the like and subscribe buttons while you're down there. And click the join button if you'd like to become a member and support the channel and get some cool perks along the way starting at less than $1. What a bargain! Either way, thank you for watching. Now, go be derivative in the most original way you can. Till next time, good luck and good writing. Peace.